Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video, we'll be doing a full tutorial of the Power eTrade mobile app. We're going to go through everything you guys could possibly need to know to get started trading on this app, and because there's a lot to go through, it's probably going to end up being a long one. So definitely feel free to check out those timestamps down below if you guys do need to jump ahead to a specific topic. But jumping right into it, let's first discuss the general navigation of this app. If you were to look at the very bottom of the app, you're going to see your main navigational tabs. Those will include the dashboard button, the portfolio button, quote, trade, and menu. Now at the moment I do have the dashboard button selected, and this shows me a few different things. First off, my account summary, so am I up, am I down for the day? It also shows me what I currently have positions on, so right there, Coin, Microsoft, and Square. And right below that is a nice little watch list showing me what companies are up, what companies are down today, and how they're doing. The next tab down at the bottom is the Portfolio tab, and if I go ahead and click on that, the first thing you're going to see are all of the current positions in this account. So right there you can see I've got positions on Coinbase, Microsoft, and Square. And if we look at the very top, you're going to see some other navigational tabs for orders, performance, and balances. If you look down at the bottom again and the next main navigational tab, the quotes button, you'll definitely spend a lot of time here because this is where we're going to see a lot of the stock profile information. So coming down to quotes, it looks like a big triangle. We're going to go ahead and click on that. From there, you're going to see a few different tickers. These are just the most recently viewed stocks that I was looking at. So SPY, Square, Coinbase, Netflix, and SoFi. Of course, if we wanted to pull one of those guys up, we would simply click on it. But if we wanted to search for a different company, we're going to click on the search box. Looks like a little magnifying glass. So we'll go ahead and click on that. From there, we can then search for the stock ticker we wanted to look at. Let's say we wanted to pull up QQQ, the NASDAQ ETF, and go ahead and click on it. Very first one in the list. Now, this is still the quotes page, but now we're seeing a bunch of information about QQQ. Right up at the top, we can see a nice little chart of what QQQ has done over the past several months. Right below that, we can see some pricing information for today. And if we were to scroll down, we would see even more stock profile information about QQQ. At the top of the quotes page, you're also going to be able to access a more expanded view of the chart by clicking on chart up there. You're also going to see an options tab if you want to trade options on QQQ. And then finally a news tab if you want to read some recent articles that have come out with QQQ in the article. Now looking back down to the main navigational window, we're going to click on the second to the last tab, which is currently marked trade. This one kind of speaks for itself. This is where you're going to come whenever you want to place a trade, whether it be for stock, options, futures, whatever. Now finally, the very last navigational window down there at the bottom, the menu button. If we go ahead and click on that, you're going to see a whole bunch of other options that we could click on. This will give us access to a bunch of other tools in this platform, and you can scroll through here and see what other things you could access. But the main navigational tabs at the bottom we just talked about are the ones that you're going to be using most often. Now don't worry, we're going to discuss each one of those main navigational tabs a whole lot more to make sure you're comfortable with the app, but the next thing I wanted to go over is how you can change the overall settings for the app. Now don't worry, we're going to go over those main navigational tabs a lot more in depth, but for right now I want to go over how you can customize some of the basic settings on this app. So to do that, make sure you still have the menu button selected and scroll all the way down to the bottom and find the settings button. From there, we're going to go ahead and click on it, and you can see a whole bunch of options available to us. The ones that we're going to be focusing on today, though, are the color scheme settings, which if we look kind of in the center of that menu, you can see the dark theme is currently selected. If I were to click on that little toggle button on the right-hand side, you're going to notice that now changes to the light theme. So this is all about personal preference. If you like the way that the light scheme works, this is where you can change it. Me personally, I do like the dark theme, so I'm going to flip it back over. The other setting on here that you're probably going to want to adjust is the trade quantities, so the default order quantities. So come on down here and find trade quantities and go ahead and click on it. From there, you can see that you can change the order defaults for stock, options, spreads, futures options, and the futures ladder. In my case, let's say I just wanted to change the default quantity for equities and for options. So first off, we're going to click on equities. So right there, you can see my default trade quantity is currently 50 shares. So that's what automatically appears in my order ticket whenever I go to buy stock. Right below that is my default trade increment. So every time I hit the plus or minus button on that order ticket, it changes it by 10 shares at a time. If I wanted to change that, let's say I only wanted to trade 10 shares at a time, I'm going to come up here to default trade quantity, go ahead and click on that number and type in 10, then hit done. Let's also say I wanted my default trade increment to be only 1 share. So every time I hit plus or minus, it'll only change by 1 share at a time. So there we go. Now that I'm happy with that, we'll also go back and do the same thing for the options contracts. And actually, I'm happy with that. My default trade quantity is currently 1 contract at a time, and my trade increment is also 1 contract. I've also got it specified at the bottom there, the default trade price, so the price that automatically goes in the box is going to be based off the midpoint. Now, like I said, you can change any of these settings, whatever you feel most comfortable with, but this is where you're going to access it. From the menu button, all the way down at the bottom, find the settings button. Now, moving off of that, let's actually next go over how you guys can create and customize a watch list on this app. So first off, we can actually see it right here on this menu screen. We've got the watch list button selected right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. From there, you can see my watch list pops up, and the name of this watch list is at the very top. This one's called Tech Companies. If you wanted to change this watch list to something you've already created, all we'd have to do is click on the name at the very top. So go ahead and click on Tech Companies. From there at the very bottom, we can then see all of the other watch lists I've made, so test watch list and default watch list. Now that I've got default watch list highlighted, I'm gonna go ahead and hit done, and you can see all those tickers change. Now, let's say we actually wanted to create a brand new watch list, and we wanted to create a watch list for all of the streaming companies out there right now. So in order for us to do that, we're gonna find the new watch list button at the very top and go ahead and click on that. From there, a little window pops up where we can go ahead and name this watch list. In my case, I'm going to name it just streaming companies. We'll just name it streaming and hit OK. From there, you can see I now have a blank slate, but I do have the streaming watch list selected that I just created. And now in order to add new symbols to this watch list, I'm just going to click on the symbol button in the upper left-hand corner. From there, I can now begin to add some of those symbols. So the most popular probably being Netflix. I'll go ahead and type that in and click on it in the list there. Next up, I'm going to add Disney, so D-I-S, click on it in the list there. Next, we'll go ahead and add Apple, another streaming play, Apple TV. Go ahead and click on Apple here, and let's say we're happy with that for right now. We now have a streaming watch list with Netflix, Disney, and Apple, and at the very top, we can see all of the columns we currently have selected. So right there, we've got a column for mark, which is just the current price of that stock. We've got the mark change for the day, the mark percentage for the day, bid, ask, and if I scroll my finger to the left, you'll also notice some other columns up there. Now, if you want to change those column headers, basically the information that's being displayed, you just need to hit the columns button in the upper right-hand corner. From there, you can then see all of the columns I currently have selected up at the very top, as well as all of the hidden columns down below, all the columns we could add. Now, for me, I'm personally an options trader, so for me, I might want to see IV rank here, so I'm going to go ahead and toggle that on. And let's say I also like to know what the dividend yield is for these companies. So I'm going to find dividend yield and click on that one as well. Now scrolling back up to the top, we can see those 2 new columns I just added, and now that I'm happy with it, I'll just hit the X button up here in the upper left-hand corner. And there we go. If we scroll over to the left, we can now see those 2 new columns that we just added. And if I wanted that to be rearranged, let's say I wanted IV rank and dividend yield right up here at front, right next to mark percent change, I'm going to click on columns again. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag those columns up right next to IV percent change. And there we go. Looks good. So hitting X here, I can now see my columns have been rearranged. Now, later down the line, let's say I decide to rename this watch list or delete some of these companies out of here. All I would have to do is hit the edit button in the upper right-hand corner. From there, if you wanted to first off rename the watch list, you would simply click on the pencil icon next to the name at the very top. Then we could go ahead and rename it. Let's just say I wanted to name it Streaming Companies. So I'm just going to add that to it and hit OK. And let's also say I wanted to delete one of these stock tickers from this watch list. Let's say get rid of Apple. So I'm going to hit that little check mark box next to it and then hit delete symbol in the upper left-hand corner. Then I just need to confirm it, delete it here, and it's gone. Lastly, if you just wanted to outright delete the watch list, you can see the delete watch list button at the very top there, but we're not going to do it in this case. We'll just hit done. And there we go. We now have that new watch list right there, streaming companies with Netflix and Disney. And again, if I wanted to toggle through my other watch list, I just need to click on the name at the very top, streaming companies, and then scroll through to the watch list I want to open. So if we go back to tech companies, hit done, there we go. I've got my tech companies watch list here. But that's really it in terms of creating and customizing a watch list for yourself. It's not too tricky, just takes a little bit of practice and you'll get the hang of it pretty quick. Now, moving off of that, let's next say we actually wanted to place a trade on one of these guys. We wanted to buy some shares of one of these guys. Now, in order to do that, there are actually a couple different ways we could do it. We could either come down to the quotes button, the little triangle icon at the very bottom, and then from there, search for the symbol we wanted to trade. The other thing we could do is simply from our watch list, click on the stock ticker that we did want to trade. So in this case, let's say we wanted to buy some shares of Coinbase. I'm going to go ahead and click on coin here. From there, I can then see all of the stock profile information for coin. So again, right at the top, we can see a nice little chart. We can also see some pricing information right below, like its 52-week range, high and low for the year. If we keep scrolling down, we can see an overview of the company, as well as some options volatility information and their upcoming earnings date. Now from here, if I actually decide to place a trade on Coinbase, I could of course come down to the trade button, go ahead and click on that. And from there, it automatically builds out that order ticket to buy us 10 shares of Coinbase. This is where you're then going to specify how many shares you want to buy, what price you want to pay for it, what order type you want to use, and how long and when you want that order good for. To change these things, it's pretty simple. You simply need to click on the thing you want to change and type in what you want to change it to. So for example, if we instead of wanting to buy 10 shares, wanted to buy 20, we'll go ahead and click on the number 10 there and type in 20, then hit done. If we then wanted to change the order type that we're using, we could click on the word limit here. And from there, we can see all of the different order types available to us. The two most popular order types will be at the very top. That'll be a limit order and a market order. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, a limit order simply means we are specifying a price. We're saying we only want to buy or sell these shares if we can get it for this price or better. So in the case of buying Coinbase, let's say we only wanted to buy Coinbase if it dropped all the way down to $150 a share. That would be a limit order. If we instead said, hey, I just want those shares immediately and I want to take those shares at whatever the current price is, that would instead be a market order. But those will definitely be the two most popular. And then right below that are the stop on quote, which is basically just a stop market order, and then a stop limit order, trailing stop dollar, and trailing stop limit order. Now for this one, we're going to leave it set as a limit order. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that again. From there, you can then see the pricing box. So remember, that's the best price that we're willing to pay for these shares. For this one, let's say I'm only willing to buy these shares at Coinbase if it drops down to $150. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that price there, type in $150 and hit done. Then moving on to the last piece of business in this order ticket is the time in force. So basically, how long and when do you want this order good for? As of right now, this order ticket is marked as a day order only. So basically, it's going to be good from 8:30 a.m. Central to 3 p.m. Central. If this order ticket does not fill by 3 p.m. Central Time, I'm not able to buy those 20 shares of Coinbase. Just go ahead and cancel the order. If you wanted to change that, you would simply click on the word day there, and from there you can see all the different time and force options. Now, the two most popular are going to be the day order, which we just discussed, and the good until cancel order. Now, good until cancel just means I want this order ticket good every single day. I want to try and buy those shares of Coinbase at $150 anytime I could do it. So if it doesn't happen today, try again tomorrow. Doesn't happen tomorrow, try again the next day, and so on until it fills or until I cancel it. Now, in the case of E-Trade, you'll see there that it has a 60 days max, so it's not really good until canceled. It's good for about 60 days, but the premise is still the same. Right below that, you'll see a few other different order types, but really the only one you're probably going to use besides those two are going to be the EXT order. Now, EXT simply means I want it good for the day, but I want it to include the pre and the post market as well, so make it good for the after hours. Now, in my case, with this order ticket, I do want to use the GTC or good until cancel order, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So looking through this order ticket now, you can see what I'm essentially saying is I want to buy 20 shares of Coinbase if it ever drops down to $150, and I want that order ticket good until canceled. Right below that, you can see the actual estimated total of this trade, if it actually fills, will be about $3,000. And then from there, if we were actually happy with this order ticket, we wanted it to place, we would simply hit the preview button in the lower right-hand corner. Now, also I'll mention, if you want to short stock in this platform, it's actually pretty straightforward. You would simply change this from a buy ticket to a sell ticket. So come on up here to the buy button and flip it over to sell. If you don't own any shares of the underlying stock, this will automatically be a short position. So in my case, I would be shorting 20 shares of Coinbase in this account right now if this were to fill. But that's really it for trading stock on this platform, nothing too crazy. So let's go ahead and move on to options next. So what I want to do is come down to the quotes page once again, little triangle icon. From there, I'm going to go to the search box and we're actually going to look up SPY. We're going to trade some SPY options here. So type in SPY, click on in the list here, and you can now see I've got the SPY stock profile page pulled up. And since I want to trade the options, I'm going to click on the options tab at the very top. From there, you can then see the option chain expands down below, and at the very top of the screen, you can see all of the different options expirations available to us for SPY. At the moment, you can see only one of those expiration dates is highlighted in purple, so that means that's the only set of strike prices listed down below. If I were to click on, let's say, March 11th, you're going to see a new chain open up down below for the March 11th options. If I were to scroll over through this expiration list, and let's say we go quite a bit, we'll go all the way over to the monthly April expiration. So go ahead and click on April of 2022 here. And now if I scroll down, we can also see the April 2022 option chain down below. If I wanted to get rid of a couple of those, let's actually get rid of the ones in March and only be trading the standard monthly contracts for April. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck both of these. And now looking down below, all I have open is the April 2022 option chain. Looking just to the right of the expiration date, so April 2022, you can see the number of days until expiration. So in the case of this expiration, it expires in 37 days from now. And then on the far right-hand side, we can see the implied volatility for this expiration. So for this one, 28.53% implied volatility. Now finally, moving off of that, we can also see all of the available strike prices listed down the middle. So right there, 415, 416, 417, those are all the available strikes. To the left of each of those strike prices is the available call options. To the right of those strike prices are the put options. You may also notice that the in-the-money options have a lighter shaded background, whereas the out-of-the-money options have a darker background. Looking up to the top of the option chain, you'll also see the columns of information that are being displayed. At the moment, it's just implied volatility and the current bid and ask for those contracts. If you wanted to change any of this, so let's say we wanted to customize this option chain a bit, we're going to go ahead and click on the little settings menu. Looks like a little gear icon at the very top there. From there, it then brings up the chain settings, and the very first thing you can change is the number of strikes that are visible. As of right now, I have 10 strikes showing, but let's say I wanted to expand that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and we're going to expand it to 20 available strikes. So now that I got that, we'll hit done here. And then the next thing you're probably going to change pretty often is going to be the column selection. So changing the column headers up at the very top. If we wanted to change that, we're simply going to click on it. And right now we can see all of the visible columns there. At the moment, that includes implied volatility, bid size, ask size, and then the Greeks, delta, theta, vega, and volume. Now, if we wanted to customize this a bit, like let's say I wanted to get rid of bid size and ask size, I'm going to uncheck those. And at the moment, I don't have gamma, so I'm going to scroll down just a little bit and find one of the ones I don't have there listed, gamma. Go ahead and click on the little toggle to the right of it. And now that I'm happy with that, I'll scroll back up, make sure everything is where I like it. In this case, I want to move gamma up right next to delta. So I just clicked on the three little lines on the far right-hand side and dragged it up to the top. Now that I'm happy with the columns I have selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit the X button in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to hit the X again for chain settings. Now that we're back to the SPY option chain, you can now see 20 available strikes right down the middle here. And at the top, you can see my new columns that I've added. And to actually see those other columns, I will have to kind of minimize either the call side or the put side. So for right now, let's expand the call side by clicking on calls up there. And now that I've expanded it, you can see those other columns. And I can scroll through it as well by putting my finger up there and scrolling to the right. If I wanted to go back to seeing both the calls and the puts, I can go ahead and click on the word calls again. And now I can see both the available options, calls and puts. Now, I think we did a good job describing how we can actually customize this option chain a bit and understand how to read it. So let's move on to how to actually buy and sell options next. In order to actually do that in this app, it's actually pretty easy. You simply need to click on the ask of the option you want to buy and the bid of the option you want to sell. So looking at the SPY options here, and specifically the April 2022 options, let's say we were bullish on SPY and we thought it was going up. Let's also say we didn't have a huge budget to work with. We only had about $800, so we're going to scroll down a little bit and find the options trading for roughly $8 here. At the moment, we can see the 429 calls are going for $7.90 by $7.97. And in order for us to buy that option, we need to click on the asking price, $7.97. As soon as I click on that option, you'll see it gets highlighted in green, telling us exactly what we're about to do. Then up at the very top, you'll also see the option we currently have selected. In this case, it's just telling us we've got the 429 strike selected, and since it's on the left-hand side, it's telling us it's a call option. Now, if we were happy with that, that was the exact strike we wanted to buy, we would then look down in the lower right and click on the trade button. From there, as soon as we click on trade, it automatically takes us to an order ticket to buy one of the April 2022 429 calls. Just like with the stock order ticket, you're simply going to tell the system how many contracts you want to buy, what price you want to pay for it, and how long you want that order good for. So in this example, let's say we wanted to buy 2 of these call options. We're going to bump it up from 1 to 2. Let's also say we only wanted to buy these if it dropped down to 750. So we're gonna go ahead and type in 7.50 here and hit done. And finally, we wanted to make this order good until canceled. For some reason, we're gonna click on the word day here and change it to GTC. But that's it. This is how you would enter into a long call option. You would just hit preview down below, then send the order if everything looked right. Now, if you were planning on doing this on a put option instead, let's say you were bearish on the S&P 500, you thought it was going down, we could go ahead and unselect this option just by clicking on it. And now moving on to the put side, if we scroll back up and we instead looked at, I don't know, the 411 puts there, at the moment you can see they're currently going for 1421 by 1431. And since we want to buy that put option, we're going to click on $14.31. From there, it then highlights in green just like before, because now we're buying the put option. We're betting on SPY going down. And then if we wanted to actually trade this, we'd hit the trade button in the lower right-hand corner. Then just like before, fill out the order ticket, submit it, and you're good to go. Now, finally, for the options, if you want to create a spread, let's go ahead and back out of here. I'm going to unselect this option. And let's actually flip over to a different stock ticker. So come on up here to the search box in the upper right-hand corner. And let's instead use, I don't know, SoFi. I've got in the list there, SOFI. I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. For this one, let's say you wanted to put on a vertical spread, and specifically you wanted to sell a put spread. If we look back up at the top here, we can see we are currently looking at the March 11th expiration. Let's go ahead and unselect that one, and we're going to go out about, I don't know, 30 days or so. That'd be the April 2022 expiration. From there, let's also say you wanted to sell the 750 by $5 put spread. So we're going to sell the 750, buy the $5. So to do that, let's go ahead and click on the bid of the $7.50 put, and you'll see that it gets highlighted in red because now we're selling that option. Next up, in order to finish off the put spread, we're going to buy the $5 put by clicking on the asking price of 5 cents at the moment. There you go. Up at the top, you can see I now have two options selected. I'm selling the 750 while simultaneously buying the $5 put. If I actually wanted to do this, I would simply hit trade in the lower right-hand corner, just like before. And as of now, it says we want to put on a put vertical spread. I'm selling the 750, buying the $5 put, and I'm doing so for a credit of 25 cents. But I think you guys get the idea. It's nothing crazy. You simply need to find the options you want to buy or sell, then click on the bid or ask, depending on if you're buying or selling. Nothing too crazy. Now, moving off of that, let's actually get out of here. We're going to back out. And the next thing we're going to go over is the actual charting on this platform. So as of right now, I am still on the quotes page. So I still have the little triangle icon highlighted at the very bottom. If you remember, up here at the very top, you've got the details menu, the charts menu, options, and news. In this case, we're going to focus on the chart menu. You can see here I've got a chart pulled up for SoFi, and if I look at the very top, you can see how far back I'm looking. In this case, this is a 3-month chart. So this chart goes back exactly 3 months in time. No further, no less. Now, you'll also notice right below that, it actually says the frequency, which is the aggregation period for these candlesticks, is right now 1 day. So basically, that means each one of these green and red candles on the chart represent 1 entire day of trading. If you wanted to change any of those time frame icons, you simply need to click on the thing you want to change. So in my case, let's say I wanted to change the amount of time I'm looking back. Instead of being 3 months, I'm actually going to click on 1 day here. From there, you can then see a chart that is only looking back 1 entire trading day. So that's how far back this chart goes. And now if I look down below, each one of those green and red candles represents 5 minutes of trading. That's the frequency I currently have selected. If I wanted to change that, and specifically, let's say I wanted to look at 1-minute candles, I'm going to click on 5 minutes right here, and then select 1 minute. There you go. So again, I'm still looking at a 1-day chart. That's how far back this chart looks. But now each one of these candlesticks represents 1 minute of trading. From here, if you wanted to customize this chart even further, you can click on the settings menu in the upper right-hand corner. Looks like a little gear icon. From this chart settings menu, you'll have the ability to change the actual chart type that you're looking at. So at the moment, I've got a candlestick chart selected. If you click there and you wanted to change it to, let's say, a line chart, we could just go ahead and click on line here. And now if I was to actually back out of this and hit done up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see my chart changes to a line chart. Now in my case, I don't like the line chart, so I'm going to go back to the settings and click on the chart type and flip it back to a candlestick chart. Moving on from that, let's also say you wanted to include the extended session, so the pre and post market. There's a little toggle button there that I could click on and include it. I could also click on this volume underlay option if I wanted to see the actual volume for the day, so how many shares have actually been traded. So I'm going to click on that as well. And then finally, if you look at the very bottom there, you're going to have the studies menu. So this is where I can actually add some indicators or studies that I want to see on the chart. In my case, let's say I just want to see a couple really simple ones like the 50 and 200-day moving averages. So in order to do that, we'll go ahead and click on Add a Study here. I'm going to go ahead and come up to the search box at the very top and type in moving average. And actually, it's already there. It's the very top one in the list. So we'll go ahead and click on that. From there, you can see the default is actually a 50-period moving average. So that's perfect. And the type is a simple moving average. If you wanted to change that, like let's say you wanted to use exponential moving average, you could click on the word simple there, and then you'll see exponential right up there at the top if you want to switch it. In my case, I do want to leave it as a simple moving average, so I'm going to leave it as simple and hit done. Then the very last thing I'm going to do is change the color of the line, because currently it's going to be a red line. I'm not a fan of that, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And looking through this color wheel, I'm going to find like this tealish color. Go ahead and click on that and go back. Now that I'm happy with that, I'll go ahead and hit save in the upper right hand corner. And now down below, you can see I've got the 50-day moving average right up there at the top. Next up, I need to add the 200. So I'm going to go ahead and click add a study again. I'm going to type in moving again for moving average and click on it here. This time I'm going to be changing the period from 50 to 200. So go ahead and delete that out of there, type 200. And then I'm going to change the color as well. So click on the red box and I'm going to find like a yellowish gold. I think this looks good. And now I'll go back and I'll hit save once again. So now down there we can see I've got the 50 as well as the 200 period moving average. And now that I'm happy with it, we'll hit done up in the upper right hand corner. And there we go. We've got the extended session. That's kind of like the highlighted area that you're seeing on your chart right now, as well as the 50 period and 200 period moving average. It may also be hard to see, but at the very bottom of the chart are also some volume bars telling us how many shares were traded during that period. But that's really it in terms of charting. Not too crazy. It might take a little bit of practice, but I'm sure you guys will get the hang of it. But moving off of that, really the last thing I wanted to cover was the portfolio tab. And let's go ahead and click on that, open it up down here. If you guys remember back to the beginning of this video, this is where I told you guys could monitor your open positions as well as edit or cancel working orders. Basically just keep track of what's going on in your account right now. So right now you can see up there I've got the positions tab selected. So as of right now, we're looking at all of the current positions in my account. There we can see I've got positions on Coinbase, on Microsoft, and on Square. If I were to click on one of those symbols, it'll actually tell me what I'm currently holding. So in the case of Square, if I go ahead and click on that, you can see I currently have 50 shares of Square stock. You can see there that I bought it for $126.75 and it's currently trading for $100.62. If I were to hit the X button in the upper left-hand corner and I instead wanted to look at the Coinbase position, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. From this one, you can actually see I've got an option contract, and specifically I have one of the March 2022 155 puts. From this screen, if you guys ever want to close one of these open positions, you simply need to hit the close button in the lower left-hand corner. So just to get some practice with that, let's just go ahead and hit close. From there, you can see it automatically takes me to a closing order ticket to sell out of this long put option that I'm currently holding. From here, just like in the other examples, you'd simply put in the price you want to sell it for, how long you want it good for, preview it, and submit it. Now, finally, moving off of this, if we wanted to actually cancel or edit working orders that we have placed in the past, we can go ahead and back out of this. And again, we're on the portfolio page. If you look at the very top, we're actually going to select the orders tab. So go ahead and click on that. From there, you can see all of my orders from today. So I actually have a cancel order to sell 25 shares of Square, and it looks like it was a trailing stop with a 5% offset. Right below that, you can also see I've got an open order to sell this long put option for $15. Now, looking up at the top, you can see the instructions to actually modify this or cancel it are to swipe left on the order ticket. So I'm going to do that. Put my finger on the coin puts and swipe slowly to the left. From there, you're going to see options to either modify this order. So if I wanted to edit it in some way, whether it be the number of contracts or the price, something like that. To the right of that, I could copy the order, basically duplicate it if I wanted to, or I could just outright cancel the trade. So in my case, let's say I wanted to cancel it. I'm just going to go ahead and hit cancel here, and then confirm that I did want to cancel it by hitting yes here. And there you go. You can see it has flipped over from an open order to a pending canceled order. But I know that was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but hopefully it gives you guys a better idea of how to actually use and trade with the E-Trade mobile app. There's definitely a lot to go through in here, but with a little bit of practice, I promise you guys will get the hang of it. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are still very confused, so feel free to leave me some questions down below or check out my E-Trade tutorial playlist if you guys want to learn more about the app. But that's it for today. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.